So we are about a month into the NBA season. A lot of teams getting the love they rightfully deserve, but I thought to myself last night, what are some teams that are flying under the radar that have been sneaky good this season and no one really seems to be talking about? When I looked into things, looked at the numbers, looked at some of the replays, the conclusion I came to was the Toronto Raptors. This season, the Raptors are currently sitting at 10-5, led by a forward pairing of Scottie Barnes and Brandon Ingram, with Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett at their 1 and 2 spots, and then Jakob Poeltl wrapping things up at the 5 position for them. They started off the season 1 and 4. They dropped games to the Milwaukee Bucks, Dallas Mavericks, San Antonio Spurs, and Houston Rockets, before going on a 9-1 stretch in the last 10 games. In that span, they've averaged 119 points per game. They've dropped off the Cleveland Cavaliers twice, the Atlanta Hawks, and they have split games 1-1 with the Philadelphia 76ers. They've been taking care of business as of late, and I just wanted to touch on a couple of reasons why I like this team so much and why I kind of think they're underrated. So I guess getting into the first reason, defensive versatility. Their trio of RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, and Scottie Barnes are super switchable, versatile defenders in the starting lineup. This opens up a lot of opportunity to make switches on defense without sacrificing mismatches. They usually match up pretty well against most teams in the NBA. I guess starting off, Brandon Ingram, he's definitely the weakest defender of the three. He exerts the least amount of energy on defense. He's more of an offensive-minded player. However, he does have the tools to be a good switchable defender. He's super long. He's able to disrupt passing lanes and contest shots that most players aren't able to. And then moving on to RJ Barrett, he's usually matching up against the best guard on the other team. He's 6'6", so he's super switchable as well. He's athletic, he's a disciplined defender, and he's got that stocky build, so he's even able to switch on to bigger players and still hold his own on defense. And then Scottie Barnes, by far the best defender on their team, one of the best defenders in the NBA. I think he's one of the most energetic players in the NBA. He's 6'8", so he's at that perfect height to be super versatile. He's a true 1-5 defender. There's a lot of players that get characterized as 1-5. They can guard any position. However, I think Scottie Barnes is actually deserves that label. You actually see it when you watch games. He can match up against guards, but then he'll match up against centers at the same time. He's currently recording 1.5 steals and almost 2 blocks a night. He had a game-saving block against Charlotte on Monday, so he's been a huge defensive presence for them. And I think that tandem of RJ, Scottie, and Brandon has been huge for them. They really represent that modern positionless NBA lineup, and I really think that's how a lot of teams are going to pivot towards moving forward. Defensively, I think as a unit, they've been very strong. They compete well with good teams defensively, and they're able to, move some pieces around, and I really like how Darko Rajakovic schemes that defense. And then moving on to my second reason, their core four is averaging 75 points per game combined this season. So first we talked about defensive versatility. What about offensive versatility? Brandon Ingram averaging 21 points a night, Scottie Barnes and RJ Barrett averaging 19 apiece, and Emmanuel Quickley at 16 points per game. Any of these guys can take the reins for scoring on any given night, and I think that really helps them down the stretch when you're not relying on just 1 to 2 guys like a lot of other teams to lead the scoring load. They're able to stay in games competitively even if Scottie Barnes is having a bad night or if RJ Barrett's not getting the looks he wants. They have a lot of versatility on offense as well. I think past this, Darko Rajakovic is able to stagger those minutes throughout the night. He usually keeps one of those 4 in at all points of the game. Went to the Cavs-Raptors game last week, and I saw Brandon Ingram down the stretch with the bench unit, so it was just him and 4 bench players. That's definitely a good move for them because the offensive output doesn't fluctuate as much throughout the game. They kind of have consistent scoring in at all times, and I think that is super huge for being a competitive team in the NBA because you look at a lot of these teams that are star-heavy or scorer-heavy at the top of their lineup, and when you get to the bottom, that output really drops as the bench unit comes into the game. But the Raptors have been super consistent throughout the game offensively this season. And when it comes to three-point shooting, the Raptors are 9th in the NBA. They're shooting 37% from 3 as a team this season. So big games offensively consistently coming from this unit. And then my third reason, remember Jakob Poeltl. Let's not forget last season, Jakob Poeltl had a month or 2-month stretch where he was averaging a 20-point double-double. I think he's a deserving starting center. He's an above-average playmaker for a big man. And he just makes good reads. He sees the court well. I really like Jakob Poeltl. I think he's a good foundation to leave in that starting lineup for them. He's a decent rebounder. He kind of just does all the right things on the court. So I think Jakob Poeltl doesn't get the love he deserves as well. And then moving on to my last reason, I put bench potential. While their bench is relatively unproven, there's a lot of value to be created when you put certain players in certain roles throughout the game. I guess starting with their sixth man, Sandro Mamukelashvili, he's been their pretty consistent sixth man throughout this season. He's adding 9 points a night on 57% from the field and 42% from three. He's just been a solid rotational piece. I don't think anybody's really losing sleep over Sandro stepping onto the court, but I think he has been super solid for them this season, and he's very efficient scoring wise. He's not a bad defender by any means. And then moving on, Jamal Shed, he is an absolute pest on defense. He's able to come into the game and guard the opposing team's best ball handler. And like I said, he is just a menace on defense. He's definitely a defensive-minded player. That kind of keeps a lot of that defensive continuity when the bench unit comes onto the floor. Jamal Shed, I'm a big fan of his game. I think once he gets his offensive game rolling a little bit more, he can kind of get hot in stretches, but I kind of want to see more of that consistency offensively from him. And then Grady Dick, he's kind of the biggest conversation piece off this bench for them. He's yet to hit his stride in the NBA so far. He has the mechanics to be a knockdown shooter and a solid shot creator in the NBA. He's a super athletic player. He's a good finisher at the rim. He's able to carry some of that offensive load into the second unit. It's definitely a timing thing with Grady. I think he needs to get some more time under his belt before I analyze him more as a player. He's still young. This is just his third year in the NBA, so I do like some of the potential I see in Grady Dick. Obviously, he's had some speed bumps so far in the NBA, but I do like a lot of the potential I see in him. And then past these guys, I see potential in guys like Colin Murray-Boyles, Jakob Poeltl, Jamison Battle, Ochai Agbaji. There's just not a whole lot to go off of sample size-wise. Analyzing these players is kind of difficult. They kind of aren't fully in the rotation at times. Ochai Agbaji, he's probably the longest tenured player off those names that I just listed. He's a solid 3-and-D guy. I think he still just needs to find more of his footing this season. And of course, the most important thing to note when I'm talking about this bench is really just basing this off potential, what I see when those players step into the game. I put a lot of trust in Coach Darko Rajakovic to put these guys in the right positions. I think he's a great coach. I think he's a good ideas guy. He's always creative with their offensive and defensive schemes. So, however, with this being said, I think the Raptors are the sneakiest good team in the NBA so far this season. I'm really excited to see how they look down the stretch and even into the playoffs this year. I could see them making it to the second round of the playoffs. If they're lucky, I could see them making it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think they just show a lot of resilience within the Eastern Conference. They're very tough against Eastern Conference teams. And I think a lot of players on this team genuinely just have a chip on their shoulder. When you look at Brandon Ingram, when you look at RJ Barrett, you're looking at guys that got moved from their previous teams. They've got a lot of criticism from the media for whatever reason in their individual case maybe. But I think they feel counted out. And even guys like Emmanuel Quickley, I think they got a lot of dogs on that team, so a lot of guys with something to prove. And I love the way this roster is built. I think their starting five stacks up well with some of the best starting fives in the NBA, and they've been extremely solid so far this season. So I just wanted to make a little video talking about why I like them so much. I don't see NBA media talking about the Toronto Raptors a ton, so let me know how you feel about the Raptors. Let me know how you feel about this different style of video that I did today. I'm just talking about one topic, kind of going more of a deep dive into that topic. I think I might keep doing this moving forward, but we shall see. But anyways, that's all I have for this video. Thank you for tuning in, and peace.